Now, right now, we need to take a chill pill. We need to cool it with the media hype about Anthony Albanese's latest overseas trip to summits in Cambodia and Indonesia. Now, the hype is that our Prime Minister might finally score a meeting with China's dictator Xi Jinping. Hang on. Yes, closer, hot. Yes, he did. Late this afternoon, he finally got a meeting confirmed. It'll be the first time that the Chinese dictator will agree to see an Australian Prime Minister in 5 years now, since President Xi decided to punish us for standing up to his bullying. And yes, it most certainly is better that the two leaders meet. So good on Anthony Albanese. But the coverage so far is as if just this meeting is now the measure of Albanese's success with this relationship. Just meeting the dictator, President Xi. Big success. You know, oh, thank you, dictator, for agreeing to see us. And this supposed success looked particularly likely after China's number 2, Premier Li Keqiang, who's actually being replaced by President Xi, spoke to Albanese for 4 minutes at the ASEAN summit in Cambodia yesterday about, well, not actually much at all. But it was an icebreaker and a sign that Xi would indeed talk to Albanese in Bali on Wednesday.
It was constructive, it was positive, and I think it's a good thing that it happened. I've said repeatedly about the relationship with China that we should cooperate where we can, and that dialogue is always a good thing. And last night's dialogue was very positive with Premier Li, and I thank him for it. The main area of discussion we had was on the upcoming 50th year commemoration of Australia's diplomatic relationship with China.
Okay, good stuff. But the talks are one thing. What actually counts are results. Now, to be fair, Anthony Albanese said publicly he isn't going to let slide the things that China's been bullying us about. He says China must lift the bans it put on our exports to punish us for speaking out on human rights and the origins of this coronavirus. And he says he won't shut up about freedom either.
We, of course, will maintain our Australian values where we must.
Where we must. That's a little bit of a qualifier that alarms me, but never mind. Except the fact is the government has shut up. I do think we are seeing this government go soft to get these meetings that will then bask in being a sort of big breakthrough. And I say that not just because this government has said very little lately about China locking up 2 of our citizens, for instance, including journalist Chang Lei, on fake charges of damaging national security. And not just because it has also shut up about China's increasing purge of Democrats in Hong Kong, now jailing even teenagers, urging opposition to communist rule. There's something closer to home, dangerous to our national security, that I'm hearing zip from the government about. Before the May election here, Labor attacked the Morrison government for being asleep at the wheel after the Prime Minister of the Solomons, Manasseh Sogavare, signed a secret defence deal with China. Now, this was a big thing, very ominous. China clearly wants to create a naval base just 2,000 kilometres off our coast, dominating our eastern sea lanes. Albanese's response at the time? He said the Morrison government should have had meetings with Sogavare.
This is a massive foreign policy failure. We were saying, what are you doing to engage here?
Meetings and meetings, and as soon as he did get elected, Albanese had that meeting with Sogavare. In fact, even gave the man a hug and got huge praise for this evident diplomatic triumph by a media that deals too much in symbols. But since then, have you heard one word of criticism from our Prime Minister of the Solomons government and its Prime Minister? A word of criticism? Not a bit. In fact, last month, Albanese claimed he'd had another successful meeting, this time in Canberra with Sogavare. Another Albanese triumph. even though Sogavare had actually raided a fisheries fund that Australia had donated to pay for his lavish global tour with his wife and some ministers to not just Australia, but Singapore and Washington and New York. Lasted nearly a month. But let's not criticise. Let's not make a fuss. Because Albanese is now sweet with this bloke, isn't he? And he's getting the Solomons on our side. Or is he? Because let's check what's actually happened with the Solomons under this Albanese government's watch without our government saying boo. In the meantime, Sogavare has banned naval vessels from the US and Britain from docking there. He hasn't banned China's. He's agreed to let China build the Solomons telecommunications network, which helps it to spy. He's also cancelled next year's elections in the Solomons. Can you believe that? He's ordered the state broadcaster there to stop criticising his government. And he's just sent his police over to China to deepen ties and, by the way, be trained into how to crush demonstrators. And the Albanese government has said not one word of criticism about this slide into a Chinese-backed tyranny on our doorstep. In fact, it's done worse than nothing. Last month, it actually boasted that Australia was sending Sogavare and his police 13 police vehicles and 60 semi-automatic rifles, assault weapons that Sogavare will find very useful to suppress any pro-democracy protests. We, under Anthony Albanese, are arming this Chinese-backed leader against his own people. And all this is what Albanese will do for the optics of a meeting and some peace and quiet with an authoritarian like Sogavare. So you've got to ask, what will our Prime Minister give away to get nice meetings and a bit of peace and quiet with a dictator like China's President Xi? Watch him like a hawk.